Hi guys, ready for story time? Me too, so let's get started. The first book we're going to read is Who Took the Farmer's Hat? And it's by Joan Nodset and pictures by Fritz Seibel. Look at, do you see legs under that hat? Who took the farmer's hat? Cute, cute pictures. Let's find out. The farmer had a hat, an old brown hat. Oh, how he liked that old brown hat. That farmer looks a little bit like me when I'm out in the barn with my overalls on. But the wind took it and away it went. Oh, look at the farmer chasing his hat. The farmer ran fast, but the wind went faster. So the farmer had to look for it. He looked and looked and looked. No old brown hat. He saw Squirrel. Squirrel, did you see my old brown hat? Said the farmer. No, said Squirrel. I saw a fat, round, brown bird in the sky. A bird with no wings. The farmer saw Mouse. Mouse, did you see my old brown hat? Said the farmer. No, said Mouse. Let's see if it's better for you this way, maybe. No, said Mouse. I saw a big, round, brown mouse hole in the grass. I ran to it, but away it went. The farmer saw Fly. Fly, did you see my old brown hat? Said the farmer. No, said Fly. I saw a flat, round, brown hill. The hill was in a tree, and then that hill took off, and away it went. The farmer saw Goat. Goat, did you see my old brown hat? Said the farmer. No, said Goat. I saw a funny, round, brown flower pot. I was going to eat it, but the wind took that flower pot away. The farmer saw Duck. Duck, did you see my old brown hat? Said the farmer. No, said Duck. I saw a silly round brown boat, but Bird took that. The farmer saw Bird. Bird, did you take my old brown hat? Said the farmer. No, said Bird. I saw this nice round brown nest, but no hat. The farmer looked at the nest in the tree. A nice old round brown nest. What is the nest made out of? Looks like the farmer's hat. Bird was in it, and an egg was in it. Oh my, said the farmer. Like it? Said Bird. I like it, said the farmer. Oh yes, I like that nice round brown nest. It looks a little like my old brown hat, but I see it is a nice round brown nest. It's a nice farmer. The farmer has a new brown hat. Oh, how he likes that new brown hat. See it? It's a nice hat. And how Bird likes that old brown nest. A cute one. Okay. The next one we're going to read is by an author that I really love. I recommend that you check out all of his books. They're so much fun. The author's name is Bill Peet. Bill Peet, P-E-E-T. And this one is called The Whingdingdilly. And that is a Whingdingdilly. Have you ever seen a Whingdingdilly? Me neither, but it would be pretty fun if we did, huh? Let's see. A Whingdingdilly. Scamp flopped down heavily on the porch with a mournful sigh. The old farm dog had been in a miserable mood for weeks, and no one knew why. Not even his best friend Orvie. Not even his best friend Orvie Jarvis could guess what the trouble might be. Before the dark mood crept over him, Scamp had been a happy, carefree dog. He was always up early, racing out to the barn lot ahead of Orvie, eager for the boy to finish the morning chores so the two of them could go rambling around the countryside. He does look sad, doesn't he? Let's see what's going on. I just have to switch my position here. There we go. How's that? A little better? Now Scamp moped on the porch until Orvie called him. Then he came drooping along at the boy's heels, sad-eyed and listless, not caring how long it took to finish the chores. Wonder what's wrong with Scamp. "What's come over you, old Scamp?" asked Orvie one day. "What makes you so sad?" Scamp's only reply was a dreary sigh. There was no way of telling Orvie that he was tired of being a dog, that he wanted to be a horse, not just any horse. Scamp wanted to be a great horse, like Palomar, the giant Percheron who lived on the farm just across the road. Back in those days, there were lots of buggies and wagons, so horses were very important. Palomar was especially important. He had won blue ribbons at horse shows and fairs all over the country, so he was famous. People traveled hundreds of miles just for a look at the great horse, and Palomar always treated the crowd to a good show by high-stepping around and around his pasture in true champion style. Everyone admired Palomar, but no one ever gave Scamp so much as a glance. No one but his friend Orvie. Look, there's Palomar. Look at Scamp. Scamp often dreamed that he was the famous Palomar, surrounded by an admiring crowd. Sometimes when the dog was sure no one was watching, he would imitate the great horse and go high-stepping around the barn lot with his nose in the air. Then one day, Orvie caught him at it. "Ho, Scamp," he chortled. "What are you up to? What do you think you are, you silly old dog?" Oh, that's sad. Scamp had never felt so foolish in all his life. To be called a silly old dog was more than he could bear. And while Orvie was busy feeding the chickens, Scamp went slinking out of the barn lot and on down the road. He was running away. Uh-oh. Oh, look at his tongue hanging out. I think he's a little tired. Just where he was going, he had no idea. But after trotting along for about a mile, the dog found himself panting. It was a hot summer afternoon, much too hot to be trotting about in a shaggy fur coat, and when he came to a dense woods, he stopped. Scamp had heard about this place. People believed that a wicked little witch lived there who possessed great magic power, and if anyone dared to enter the woods, she might turn them to stone or into a toad. But Scamp was in no mood to worry about a little witch, so in he went. It was much cooler in the dark, spooky woods and ever so quiet. The only sound was the burbling of a brook running along through a jumble of rocks. Oh, what do you see there? Who might that be? Let's see. The brook finally trickled down to a crystal clear pool where Scamp stopped to stare at his gloomy reflection. This was the first time he had taken a good look at himself, and more than ever he wished he were a horse. All at once the hair at the back of his neck bristled. Someone was watching. Quickly Scamp wheeled around, looking right and left, and then finally up into a sycamore. And there was the little witch leaning out the window of her treehouse. Uh-oh, wonder what's going to happen. Scamp was on his feet, all ready to run, when the witch said, "So, you want to be a horse, do you?" And before you could say scat, she flew out the door and down the steps and was nose to nose with the bewildered dog. "Why, old Zildy can turn you into a horse in a twinkling," she said, patting him gently on the head. "Oh, but I can do much better than that, doggy. How would you like to be something fantastic? The only one of its kind in all the world. A marvelous, magnificent something I call a Whingdingdilly. What do you say?" Scamp cocked his head in thought for a few seconds. Then with a wag of the tail he barked, excuse me, but then with the wag of the tail barked his yes bark. "Good dog, so we'll get on with it," she cried, snapping a twig off the sycamore. "I don't really need a wand. Any old thing will do. My magic power is all in the words. Just watch." Suddenly Zildy was dancing about like a grasshopper, waving the twig in the air, and in her screechy voice she recited the magic words: "Diggity doggity ziddledy zump, we'll start right off with a camel hump." The camel, then camel hind legs, skaroodly doo, with zebra stripes and a zebra tail too. Now for a neck, kersnickety snaff, with squarish brown spots just like a giraffe. Clumpity mumbo jumbo cod jelliphant. Here's the big feet and front legs of an elephant. Zum zum zaroot, most anything goes, so how about a rhinoceros nose? Then elephant ears, kerflippity flop, and reindeer horns, zilly zop, out the top. "I've done it! I've done it!" Zildy cried gleefully. "There you are, dog, the one and only Whingdingdilly. Go take a look at yourself." Oh, what do you think he's gonna think when he sees that? Whew! That's a big change from old Scamp. The sudden change had made him dizzy, and Scamp tottered unsteadily on his new set of legs as he turned around to face the pool. What he saw was much too much to take in all at once, and with a loud rhino snort, he went staggering backwards. Poor Scamp. "See what I mean?" said the little witch. "You're one whopping big surprise. Now I'd better skedaddle if I'm going to make cookies today." And Zildy scurried up the steps into the treehouse, leaving the Whingdingdilly wondering what he would do. Finally, he decided he'd better go home. Just as he started off, the witch called out the window, "Take care you don't step in my tulip bed with those big clumsy feet of yours." In the shadows of the sycamore were rows of bright yellow flowers, and as he headed back through the trees, he was careful to step around them. See the yellow flowers right there? Making his way through the dense woods had been easy for the dog, but now it was almost impossible for the Whingdingdilly. It was a struggle every step of the way, with his antlers catching on tree limbs, the rhino horns hooking onto vines, the clumsy elephant feet stumbling over logs, and the camel feet tripping over the elephant feet. The going was so slow that it was near sundown when he finally made it to the edge of the woods. As Scamp poked his head out through the trees, he surprised a sow and her 6 piglets. Squealing in terror, they went racing pell-mell away through the weeds. "What a fright I must be," thought Scamp. "I'm in no shape to be running around in plain sight. No telling what people might do." Then, stretching his long giraffe neck, he raised his head for a view of the countryside. As far as he could see, the fields were deserted, and so were the roads. All the farmers had gone to dinner, so there was a good chance of getting home without being seen. I don't know about that. We'll see. As he lumbered out into the open road, he found the going much easier. It was just a matter of keeping the long, striding camel legs from overrunning the plodding elephant legs. And he was clumping along at a pretty good clip when all at once he heard Orvy calling, "Here, Scamp! Here, Scamp! Here, Scamper boy!" He was coming up the road just over the next hill. If Orvie should come face to face with a Whingdingdilly, especially in the eerie light of evening, it might scare his scrawny little friend out of a year's growth. That wouldn't do. Oh, look, he fits right in. Can you see him? Can you see him in there? He's hiding. In one clumsy leap, Scamp was over a fence and went sprawling headlong into a wheat field. Let's see, is that better for you guys? Then he remained flat to the ground, scarcely breathing and as still as a wheat shock. When Orvie came to the top of the hill, he stopped for one last call. A long, loud, "Here, Scamper!" that it echoed for a mile across the countryside. Then he listened for an answering bark, but there was only the faraway crowing of a rooster. Where could he be, wondered Orvie as he turned and headed back down the road. Scamp raised his head to watch until the boy was no more than a speck in the distance. Then, with an effort, he hauled himself to his feet and hobbled over the fence back onto the road. I bet he's so sad. By this time, he was getting leg weary, and he went plodding along ever so slowly. It was growing dark when he finally reached the Jarvis farm. Cautiously, he pushed open the gate, tiptoed across the yard to the house, and peeked in the kitchen window. The family had just finished dinner, everyone but Orvie, who sat at the table, staring at his plate. "Scamp is always home at dinner time," said the boy. "Something's happened to him, or he'd be here." "If old Scamp's really gone for good," said his father, "then I'll tell you what, Armstrongs have a new colt, and if they'll sell him, he's all yours. How would you like that, son?" "It's not the same," said Orvie. See Orvie right there? He's so sad. "You can't get to know a horse, not like you can a dog. Old Scamp understood just about everything I said. He was a lot smarter than any horse, and besides that, he was a real friend." Scamp could hardly believe his flappy ears. So Orvie didn't really mean it when he called him a silly old dog. In fact, Orvie thought he was smart, and Scamp heaved a great sigh of relief. But what would Orvie think of a Whingdingdilly? Oh, goodness. Look where he's sleeping. They might get a big surprise in the morning when they wake up. Scamp decided to wait until morning to find out, and he stood there in the dark until he was sure everyone had gone to bed. Then the Whingdingdilly stretched out full length on the front porch with a monstrous yawn. "Maybe this is nothing but a bad dream," he thought, "and when I wake up I'll be the same as ever." Pretty soon he was sound asleep and snoring just like a rhinoceros. The next thing Scamp knew, it was morning, and Orvie was shouting, "Dad! Mom! Come quick! There's a thing! A great big thing out here!" The Whingdingdilly struggled to his feet, looking wildly about for the big thing. Then suddenly he remembered that he was the thing that went stumbling backwards off the porch out into the yard. And in one clumsy leap, he was over the fence and galloping away down the road. Oh my goodness. Look what happened here. His head was in such a whirl he didn't see the man driving his cows to pasture until he was almost upon them. In a panic, the man jumped into a ditch, and the bawling, terrified cows went crashing through a fence, scattering in all directions. Another man was so shocked at the sight of the gigantic beast he lost control of his tractor, and the machine went plowing through a haystack to end up in a duck pond. Then there was a near head-on collision with a horse and buggy. The horrified horse left the road in one leap to go scrambling up a telegraph pole, buggy and all. Now the Whingdingdilly didn't dare stop or even slow down, and he kept going full gallop all the way back down to the woods. Whoa. Hopefully old Dildy is there to help him. What do you think? Scamp was hoping Zildy would understand his awful predicament and undo her magic spell. Once again he fought his way through the tangle of trees. When he reached the tree house, he gave the door a resounding thump with his snout, then watched for Zildy to pop her head out the window. But no Zildy appeared. The shutters were latched and the door was locked and bolted. If she's gone, Scamp reasoned, she'll be back sooner or later, so all I can do is wait. It would be a long wait. Early that morning, Zildy had packed her suitcase, spruced herself up in her fancy best, and left on a trip to visit her sister in Massachusetts. She hadn't sailed away on a broomstick like most witches do. Zildy was in no hurry, so she had taken the train. Now she was riding along in comfort, munching on sugar cookies with no thought whatever of what might have happened to the Whingdingdilly. Uh-oh. Look here. In the meantime, all the farmers in the neighborhood had formed a small army, and with guns and pitchforks they followed the trail of huge footprints straight to the woods. But they didn't dare go in, for now the woods were more frightening than ever. "We'll wait 'em out," said Big Moose Mulford, the leader of the army. "The minute the monster shows his face, powie! We'll pop him off." The farmers stood watch on into the evening, then all through the night, and when morning came there was still no sign of the monster. "From now on," yawned Moose, "we'll split up in bunches, with some taking the night watch and the others taking the day." But after watching the woods night and day for a week, the biggest thing to come out was a rabbit. By this time, news of the monster had spread all over the county, all the way to Central City, and finally to Claxton J. Pringle, the great showman. See this? C.J. Pringle's Palace of Living Wonders. Menagerie of the Marvelous and the Amazing. C.J. Pringle's Palace of Living Wonders towered majestically above the city square. Over the main entrance was a sign reading Menagerie of the Marvelous and the Amazing, the most colossal collection of incredible creatures to be seen anywhere on earth. The great showman had traveled all over the world in search of spectacular new attractions for his menagerie, and when he read in the newspaper that a fantastic giant of a beast was running loose in the county, CJ was jubilant. "Eureka!" he cried. "Why, if this beast is half that they say why, if this beast is half what they say it is, it could be worth a fortune. But first, I must get my hands on the thing." Within half an hour, CJ had rounded up his roughest, toughest crew of roustabouts, and they took off in their Hupperson autobus, followed by a 10-ton beast-moving van. The great showman was in a desperate hurry, so he went at top speed all the way with the horn blaring full blast, warning everyone to clear the road. And in no time they came skidding to a stop alongside the woods, where all the farmers rushed out to greet them. "If you've come after the monster," said Moose Mulford, "he's somewhere back in those trees. But you'd better be careful. He's a real whopper." "The bigger the better," said CJ. Then turning to his men, he warned, "Don't get too rough. I want the beast all in one piece." "Easy does it," they promised, and with lassos, chains, and leg irons, the roustabouts went charging into the woods. By the time Scamp had discovered what all the crashing around in the brush was about, he was surrounded. He tried to run, but after one turn around the sycamore, the men closed in, grabbing onto his legs, his neck, and his tail. In a fast and furious struggle, they wrestled him to the ground, roped and chained him from head to foot, and then dragged him away through the woods. Poor Scamp. "Thunderation!" roared CJ at first sight of the giant beast. "He is a whopper. No wonder there was such a big hullabaloo." "Say now," he exclaimed, "there's a good name for the thing. A hullabalooper, the super duper hullabalooper. Suits him to a T, chuckled Moose Mulford. Now that the danger was past, the farmers were a happy bunch. They were laughing and joking while the beast was being loaded into the van, and as C.J. Pringle and his crew headed back up the road toward the city, the farmers gave them a rousing cheer. That night, the bewildered and bedraggled super-duper hullabalooper was hustled down a ramp into the basement of Pringle's palace and left in a cage with other living wonders of the world. There he remained while CJ went bustling about the city, getting placards printed and posters painted to advertise his fabulous new attraction. The most colossal, the most stupendous and phenomenal creature in all the universe. Don't miss the grand presentation at C.J. Pringle's Palace of Living Wonders on the great day of July 20th. You see him there? And look, there's a really big chicken and a two-headed duck and a two-legged donkey. Oh my goodness. When the great day arrived, Pringle's palace was jammed to overflowing, with thousands more waiting in line outside. "Keep calm, everyone," bellowed CJ as the noisy, excited crowd kept pushing and shoving for a closer look at the amazing beast high up on a pedestal. The super-duper hullabalooper was too much to believe. Some people poked at him with canes, while others yanked on his tail to make sure the beast was real. Now Scamp was even more famous than the great Palomar, and yet he had never been so miserable in all his life. He wished there was some way to escape, but he was always kept chained to the pedestal, and after the show he was caged in the basement for the night. So it seemed that Scamp was doomed to spend the rest of his days as the greatest of all living wonders at Pringle's Palace. Maybe being famous isn't so great. Then one afternoon, Zildy returned home. "Zark," she cried when she reached her treehouse. "Somebody's trampled my tulips, and I know who." All around the sycamore were the telltale elephant tracks and the camel tracks of the Whingdingdilly. "I'll get even," she muttered, "and don't worry, Whingdingdilly, I'll find you." Then Zildy shut her eyes to concentrate. "Now let me see. Aha! So there you are, living in a palace. A highfalutin somebody. A celebrity, are you? Well, I'll fix that." In one hop, Zildy was up on a stump. Then, aiming her umbrella in the exact direction of Central City, the angry little witch exploded, "Whammy kazammy scrumbo skaroof! Ziggy zum zap! Zaruda kerpoof!" And in one great purple poof, the super-duper hullabalooper was gone. In its place stood a plain, ordinary, frowsy brown dog. The crowd was so flabbergasted that for a full minute they were left gaping in amazement. Then all at once they burst into an uproar of shouting, "It's a fake! It's a fake! The hullabalooper is a hoax! We've been hornswoggled! We've been rooked! Claxton J. Pringle is a swindler and a crook!" For the very first time, the great showman was caught speechless. In a huffing, puffing fury, he seized the dog by the tail and the scruff of the neck, then hustled him off through the crowd. "Out, out, out, and the devil take you!" he bellowed as he flung the dog out the front door. He is kind of a crook, but mostly he's kind of a jerk. In one bounce, Scamp was on his feet, racing down the street, dodging in and out through the traffic. Now that he was free, there was nothing more to worry about. Finding his way out of the big city was easy to do. Dogs have a fine sense of direction, and by nightfall, Scamp was loping along a dusty road far out in the country. "I'm lucky to be a dog," he said to himself. with sense enough to find my way home. Even a great horse like Palomar might get lost in the big city. Scamp had not felt so happy and carefree in a long time, and when he came over the last hill and spied the Jarvis house, he barked joyfully. Then, as he came bounding into the yard, Orvie leaped off the porch, shouting, "Scamp! Scamp! It's old Scamper! Scamp's come home!" In a wild rough-and-tumble greeting, the boy and the dog went sprawling in the grass. "Scamp, you old rascal!" cried Orvie. "Where have you been? Where have you been all this time?" "Ruff! Ruff!" replied Scamp, which was as much as the dog could tell him. And of course, Orvie would never guess where Scamp had been. Not in a zillion years. See them? It's a great book. The Whingdingdilly by Bill Peet. Okay. The next one we're going to read, I've never read before. I'm excited. It is called Grumpy Monkey. Look at that face. Ooh, he does look so grumpy. By Suzanne Lang and illustrated by Max Lang. Have you ever been grumpy like that? I have been sometimes. Grumpy. Let's see what happens. Maybe if I scoot over one more little bit, just the pages. Is that better? Maybe that'll work better for you. One wonderful day, Chimpanzee woke to discover that nothing was right. The sun was too bright, the sky was too blue, and the bananas were too sweet. Look at his face, goodness sakes. The sky was too blue. The bananas were too sweet, and the sun was too bright. Jim was confused. What's going on? Maybe you're grumpy, suggested Norman from next door. I'm not grumpy, Jim insisted. Oh, so this is Jim. Sorry, this is Norman. Jim is most definitely grumpy. Have you ever woken up on the wrong side of the bed? Me too. On his walk, he met Marabou. Jim's grumpy, Norman told Marabou. Why are you grumpy, Jim? Asked Marabou. It's such a wonderful day. It's Marabou. Grumpy? Me? I'm not grumpy, said Jim. But look how you're standing, Marabou said. It's true, said Norman. You're all hunched. So Jim loosened up. Then he ran into Lemur. Jim's grumpy, Norman told Lemur. See the lemur with the long tail? Why are you grumpy, Jim? Asked Lemur. It's such a wonderful day. Grumpy? Me? I'm not grumpy, said Jim. Your eyebrows look grumpy, said Lemur. It's true, said Norman. They're all bunched up. So Jim raised his brow. Then he tripped over Snake. Oh, no, said Norman. That's the last thing you need when you're feeling so grumpy. Grumpy? Me? I'm not grumpy, said Jim. Then why that frown, said Snake. I think it's because he tripped over you, Norman whispered to Snake. So Jim put on a smile. It's you? See that smile? It's funny. Finally, Jim looked happy, but he didn't feel happy inside. Everyone wanted Jim to enjoy this wonderful day. You should sing with us, said the birds. Jim didn't feel like singing. Oh, he does look like he's not enjoying this. Let's see. How's that? Can you see that? Look at Norman and everyone trying to make him happy. You should swing with us, said the monkeys. Jim didn't feel like swinging. You should roll with us, said the zebras. Jim didn't feel like rolling. You should stroll with us, said the peacocks. Jim didn't feel like strolling. That's not going to work for you. There we go. You should lie in the grass. You should stomp your feet. You should take a bath and make a splash. You should you should hug someone. Oh, poor bunny. You should laugh. You should take a nap. You should eat old meat or some honey. You should jump up and down. You should sit in the sun. You should dance. But Jim didn't feel like doing any of that. Why are you grumpy, Jim? Asked the others. It's such a wonderful day. I'm not grumpy, shouted Jim as he beat his chest. And he stormed off. Oh, look at his face. Jim felt sorry, a little sorry for shouting at everyone, but mostly sorry for himself. I guess I am grumpy, Jim sighed. And just as he was starting to feel really sad, he came upon Norman. Norman was slumped. His eyebrows were bunched up, and he was frowning. What's the matter? Are you grumpy? Asked Jim. No, I danced with Porcupine, said Norman. Are you okay? Asked Jim. It hurts, but I'll probably feel better soon enough, said Norman. Are you still grumpy? I guess if you dance with a porcupine, get some prickles, huh? It hurts, but I'll probably feel better soon enough, said Norman. Are you still grumpy? Yes, said Jim, but I'll probably feel better soon enough too. For now, I need to be grumpy. Sometimes we just need to feel what we're feeling, huh? Sometimes we're just grumpy. It's a wonderful day to be grumpy, said Norman. Jim agreed. And he already felt a little better. Yep, I can see that. Okay, one more story. I have chickens. I have lots of chickens. And I also have a funny looking little rooster, and his name is Squiggy. And maybe sometime I'll bring Squiggy in to read stories. He's a nice little boy. He's very funny looking, and he'll cuddle, and so maybe someday he'll come in to read stories with me. But in the meantime, we're going to read about Bob. Bob by Tracey, Campbell, Pearson. He's a roo too. Look at that. And what do you think Bob's saying? What do you think he's saying? I bet you that's what he's saying. That's what Squiggy says all day long. Bob, a rooster, lived with a bunch of chickens. The chickens clucked all day long, and so did Bob. Cluck, 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 cluck. Like my chickens, they go bark, 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 bark. One day, Henrietta told him the truth. Bob, she said, you are not a chicken. You are a rooster. You need to stop clucking and learn how to crow so you can wake up the girls every morning. That's what roosters do. Will you teach me? Asked Bob. No, said Henrietta. I'm a cat. Cats don't crow. I can only teach you how to... What do cats say? Meow. So Bob learned how to meow, and then he went off in search of a rooster. Meow, meow. Poor Bob. Oh, what do you think the dog's going to teach him to say? What do you think? Bob walked and walked until he met a dog. He learned how to woof and wag, but a dog is not a rooster, so Bob continued down the road. Meow, meow, woof, wag, wag, wag. Oh, what do you think this guy's going to teach him how to say, huh? Bob walked and walked until he found a pond full of frogs. He learned how to ribbit and hop. But a frog is not a rooster, so Bob continued down the road. Meow, meow, woof, wag, ribbit, ribbit, hop, hop. Oh boy, what do you think they're going to teach him to say? What are those? Those are cows, right? What are they going to teach him to say? Bob walked and walked until he came to a field of cows. He learned how to moo and tried to chew his cud, except he didn't have one. Bob decided to eat bugs instead. Good idea, Bob. But a cow is not a rooster, so Bob continued down the road with a belly full of bugs. Meow, meow, woof, wag, ribbit, ribbit, hop, hop, moo, yum, yum, bugs. He walked right out of the day and into the night, searching for a rooster to teach him how to crow. Walking through the darkness, Bob got scared. He was sure he was being followed. Bob was quiet. Oh, look, he looks scared. Look at his face. Then a stranger called out, "Who, who, who?" Who do you think that stranger is? Do you know? Not wanting to be rude, Bob whispered, "Bob, Bob, Bob." Again the stranger asked, "Who, who, who?" And again Bob whispered, "Bob, Bob, Bob." And so it went all night long, over and over again, until the first morning light, when Bob heard, what do you think he's going to hear? Cock-a-doodle-doo! There in the middle of the road was a bird who looked a lot like Bob. His name was Fred, and he taught Bob how to crow. It was dark by the time Bob walked all the way home. He settled in for the night, being careful not to wake the girls or Henrietta. Bob was too excited to sleep, so he was wide awake when the fox came. He let out a big, oh, there's a fox. He let out a big cock-a-doodle-doo, but it didn't scare the fox. Then Bob called out aloud, "Meow, meow, meow, woof, 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 ribbit, 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 moo, yum, yum, fox." The fox, terrified and amazed by all the animals in the coop, especially the one that sounded hungry for fox, ran home, never to return. And from then on, every morning, Bob woke the girls and Henrietta up with a cock-a-doodle-doo. Or, if he felt like it, a meow, woof, ribbit, moo, yum, yum, bugs. Cute. All right. That's the end of story time today. Thank you guys so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed the stories, and I will see you tomorrow. And if you have any story requests, I have a lot of kids' books, so it's possible I might have it. If you have any requests for a story, just make a comment on the Facebook post, and I'll see if I have it, and I'll read it for you if I do, okay? Okay, well, everyone have a great afternoon. Thanks again for coming, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.